All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at PrizePicks and GameTime. It is Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth for what you just said, our last official offseason show, pure offseason show, because 2 weeks from today, it's the first day of Patriots training camp. So next week, we're going to spend, our two shows previewing the offense, previewing the defense, really diving into our training camp preview. And then we're in the thick of it, training camp, preseason, and then we're rolling into the regular season. So this is kind of it. This is our last offseason show where we're going to try to come up with some stuff to talk about. And we're going to kick it back over to you guys in the chat for today. So any questions you have about the Patriots, about training camp coming up, maybe stuff down the line, leave that in the chat. Even some other Boston sports questions, we can hit on it all. And Barth, while they start doing that, I got to ask you, the big thing that's been going around kind of in our Patriots world here was we got a Drake Maye and an Elliott Wolf cameo in the Giants Hard Knocks last night. We got about a 30-second clip of Drake Maye in the room with Brian Daboll breaking down a play, and then we saw the Giants GM go to Elliott Wolf, tell him he's open for the third overall pick. Just were you as excited as everyone else watching, Drake Maye break down the play, or did you have any kind of? It was cool access to see, but do you have any big kind of takeaways from those two cameos in the Giants Hard Knocks last night?
I don't know about Patriots related. I mean, I think it was cool to see the behind the scenes of it all. I won't lie. I had more of a reaction to Jaden Daniels one, and just that I know some people ripped him for the coaches asking him like, well, what do we want you to do here? And he goes, throw a touchdown. And then the camera cuts. I understand why like that's not the best answer if that's your final answer. I'd like to think after he said that he gave the real answer. I thought it was good though. I had showed some balls to say that.
I don't know. That kind of gave me like I don't know the right answer, so I'm just gonna say, I'll throw.
Well, so that's what you have to wait and see is like,
yeah.
Because if he says that and then Daboll chuckles and then he gives the right answer,
then it's
like that's kind of cool. If he was just like, I don't know the right answer, that's worrying, obviously. But just the behind the scenes of it all, again, like they talk about it kind of how we talk about it, right? They kind of go about it, and I'm sure some of the real nuts and bolts stuff's left out. It's deeper than what they showed, but I'm interested to see as we get closer to the draft in that series. Like, but you heard it, like, all right, we're interested in the third overall pick, and Elliott was like, cool. Call us when you have an offer. Like, isn't that kind of how we do our mock, right? So, and I wonder if they show them doing any of the practice mock drafts. But that's just kind of what struck me is like, it's not that maybe there's not as much going on behind the curtain as some people would think.
Yeah, I mean, I said in the first episode, they show it's the Giants GM and the Panthers GM, and they start the trade conversation for Brian Burns. And it's just the Panthers GM was like 2 firsts for Brian Burns, and then the Giants, they go up to the Giants GM, and he's like, yeah, maybe not that much, but we're interested, right? It just looks like us starting a fantasy football conversations with our buddies. You just throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. So that has been kind of interesting to watch unfold, but it was a cool kind of sneak peek at, Drake Maye there. Looks, processing a play, gets a play, processing that, and then getting to see how some of those trade talks work. So those are kind of the two little Patriots nuggets from the Hard Knocks there. Again, that was the HBO Hard Knocks offseason edition with the Giants. They're 2 episodes in. Had some good behind-the-scenes stuff with that. So we can now jump over to the chat. We have some questions rolling in. Keep sending them in. We'll try to hit on as many as possible here. And we can start with a Matthew Judon question because we got a little bit of news from him, from Henry McKenna, who said the Patriots made him a contract offer. Judon didn't accept it, obviously. We'll kind of see how it goes. So they're kind of looks like they're at the negotiating table, but we'll see what happens. So we have a question that says, if they don't sign Judon to an extension, would you rather see him traded and get at least some value back, or walk after the season ends? Do you have a preference there, how this kind of shakes out?
I mean, trade him rather than letting him walk. Like, the last thing you want is a Stephon Gilmore situation where you move him for nothing. And the longer you wait, the less you're going to get for him, which is what worries me, right? So, the way I kind of look at it is if they were going to trade him, I think that time has passed.
Yeah.
So now you got to figure something out. Even if you just keep him for 1 year, I think that's better. Keep him for the 1 year because you'll get the third round comp pick. That might be better than what you get in a trade. Keep him for the 1 year. Help him elevate this team this year. Help him set the tone in the clubhouse. Clubhouse. I've been doing too much baseball. The trade deadline in the locker room, and then you part ways after the season, or maybe you trade him at the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of at. I could see a trade at the deadline where, you know, if the season goes as a lot of people would expect for the Patriots, and you're not competitive, and that's maybe a intriguing piece to a contender, you know, a top pass rusher, especially if he starts the year, you know, like he did last year, 4 sacks in 4 games, 15, 16 pressures. Like he proves he's still the Matthew Judon of the past few years. That's an intriguing piece for a contender. But like trading him right now, I don't know what his value would be. Like maybe a fourth, fifth round pick, and then you're just talking like keep him for the year. He's, you know, they want to try to win games this year still. He'll help you do that on defense. Like you saw the pass rush kind of fell off without him last year, and then maybe he walks for the comp pick. So I think we've talked about it so much. Like I don't think either of us are interested in extending him, right? Because he's 30. He'll be 32 in August. You don't want to start adding a bunch of years onto that. A bump in pay for this year, sure, keep him around, but that's how I kind of would see like the top 2 ways I could kind of see this going right now.
Yeah.
This is kind of a fun one. If you had to construct an entire starting defense using 11 clones of the same player, you could pick a current player and then an all-time player. I don't know are we constricted only to Patriots players here, but I guess we.
Yeah, I mean, if we're just doing Patriots, I would say probably Jabril Peppers.
Yeah.
Just the athleticism, the range, the versatility. Probably Jabril Peppers all time. I mean, how do you not? Like, I'm definitely taking a defensive back. That I know. All time, I probably go Ed Reed. I you know, maybe it's a Bill thing. Lawrence Taylor's up there too. I didn't see him play, so I don't have like a full appreciation of what he can do. Usually when I get these questions, I just do within my lifetime. I guess, although if we're doing Patriots, Rodney Harrison, or I know I said I only do defensive backs. Like Willie McGinnis was such a freak, but he's not going to cover receivers. Probably Rodney Harrison if I go all-time Patriots. Ed Reed all-time.
Yeah, you need someone who can cover, like a defensive back. Like Keon White would be fun, that body type, but like you need someone who can kind of hold up in the secondary there. So it's real, like all these box safeties that the Patriots have are like perfect because they can play down by the line of scrimmage. They can cover Peppers, Duggar, you know, Harrison, Ed Reed. If you want to go like these all-time guys, those are good choices. Andrew came back and said make the case for 11 T'Vondre Sweats. You couldn't run on that. You couldn't run on 11 T'Vondre Sweats.
No shot.
You could throw the ball on all day long,
probably. Yeah.
That was a fun one. Who will be the top returner this year if you had to project? I guess do punt and kick.
I mean, I think kick is Jalen Reagor. He's just, you know, he's got the speed, he's got the change of direction. It's a little more physical. That's why I don't want to put Tamaro Douglas back there. I'd still put him back on punts where he can protect himself, but injuries are something you have to worry about with him.
Yep. I'd still put Marcus Jones top punt returner. That seems like as long as he's healthy, that's his job. Probably kick returner. I like Reagor. Also, I think Antonio Gibson will be interesting there. You know, he's got the speed, and maybe if this play is more like a running play, which we project, having a running back back there will be useful. And then their plan for Isaiah Bolden will also be interesting because he was, you know, historically good in college, but then they rotate 7, 8 guys throughout OTAs and minicamp back as a returner, and he wasn't included at all there. So that'll be interesting if maybe we get deeper into the summer preseason if they try Isaiah Bolden back there because he's got that skill set for the old return. Doesn't translate to the new return. So a lot of options. They have a lot of options to choose from. So we'll see what that kind of shakes out like.
What else we got?
We got Would you be interested in bringing in Leonard Fournette? We've talked about maybe that need for a third back behind Ramondre, behind Antonio Gibson. I think Fournette was it? He switched agents, or his agent texted Schefter and was like, he wants back in. So
Yeah.
something came up with Leonard Fournette, a guy they had in the last 2 years, showed interest in 2 years. Obviously, little change on the coaching staff, but is Leonard Fournette someone you're interested
Yeah,
in?
the question is, was that a Belichick thing? I also think when we talk about bringing in a running back late, which I think is on the table, you're not, Zeke last year, that was the second back. That was the guy that was going to play. The third back will probably play just with injuries, but there's not a lot of guaranteed playing time because this is the third back. Like Gibson is their second back behind Stevenson. I don't think you're not going to draw that. And not that Leonard Fournette's an elite player at this point, but I don't know that you're drawing a player with that kind of pedigree to be your third running back. I think that's going to be kind of a tough sell. So not that it couldn't happen, but I'd be surprised. And I'd also be a little worried if they're that worried that they think they need Leonard Fournette as RB3, because that's what he would be.
You also think like the fit could be kind of weird if there are running a lot of like zone, like he's more of a like zone runs, like he's more of a downhill guy. You'd probably maybe prefer more of a speedster.
Well, the thing is, I like for that third back because Stevenson and Gibson are both pretty well rounded. Give me somebody for 3rd and 1 in the goal line. Like I'd be worried about the fit if they're going to play him 25, 30 snaps a game. And again, this goes back to my point of this is, you're probably talking about a specialist kind of back, but I'm not opposed, because look at who most of the guys are competing for that role. We've talked a little bit about JaMychal Hasty, and he's more similar to Stevenson and Gibson stylistically, but Kevin Harris, bowling ball, Terrell Jennings, bowling ball, Deshaun Fenwick, bowling ball. Like, that seems to be what they want from that third back. So Fournette actually does profile for that. But I don't know that he's coming here just to get, at most 5 touches a game, which is what that role will be if everybody stays healthy.
Yeah.
And you can't promise him like, oh, guys are going to get hurt, you'll play more. You just can't do that. Here's an interesting name. When we're talking about this, did he get cut? Izzy Abanikanda?
Let me look it
Pit
up.
legend. The Patriots did some work on him so he was in the draft last year.
Well,
you might remember I was a fan of his last year.
They have the Jets running back coach.
Oh, you're right.
The Jets last year. So,
okay, so he's not a free agent. I don't think the Jets are gonna.
They have a lot of backs, don't they?
They do, but they need a third back. So they have Breece Hall. They have Braylon Allen. That's 1 and 2. Xavier and Valladay will compete for the third spot. Whatever's left, they have Tariq Cohen. I don't know how much he has left in the tank. Looking at the rest of their backs, Izzy Abanikanda is their third back. Like, he should be their third back. I think there's a pretty solid gap between him and the rest of the guys. So I thought maybe he got waived today and I missed it. It'd be nice, but if he does get waived, yeah, that's a guy he would make a lot of sense. He's the kind of guy you're looking at for that third running back role.
They drafted a second back too.
Isaiah Davis. He's a little later. Small school back. Maybe he makes some noise, but from that group, I like Abanikanda, unless Tariq Cohen's got himself a time machine, because I was a big fan of Tariq Cohen back in the day. Unless he has himself a time machine, I'd go Abanikanda if I was the Jets.
Yeah, that's a room to watch because the Taylor Embry connection. So if one of those guys,
good point.
Tariq Cohen wasn't there last year, but if one of those guys that has some connections kind of shakes loose, Izzy, probably the leading candidate if one of them was to go. That's an interesting name to watch there.
So
kind of cut down day.
Here's a little not exact Patriots related. Somebody asking, if I play fantasy football, what are my favorite leagues? And will I won't join your league. I haven't played fantasy football in years. I was never that much of a fan with it to begin with, but my favorite thing is sitting there on Sunday and watching all the points come in like in real time. And obviously, like, I can't really do that anymore because I have to focus on the Patriots game. Like, I'm up in the press box and all that. So I haven't done it. But my favorite kind of league back when I played, me and some buddies of mine would do a punters league. And I think it was Yahoo. There was only one of them. Maybe it was Yahoo. One of them was maybe it was CBS. Only one of them let you draft punters. We would just only draft punters. You got, I think it was like 2 points for an I-20. It's like 2 or 3 points. We changed the scoring a couple times because it took us a few years to like balance it. But it was like 2 or 3 points for 920, -1 for a touchback, and it was like -20 if your punter gave up if like there's a punt return touchdown. Like if your punter gave up a return touchdown, you'd lose. Which I remember benching punters specifically because they were going up against good returners. But that I recommend it. It's a lot of fun. So the inspiration, if you ever done, and these are kind of popular, a steals and saves league in fantasy baseball, which is just you get a point for a steal, a point for a save. That's it, and that's the whole league. And I did one of those, and that was fun. And maybe we should do like a Patriots Beat,
Punters.
CLNS, punters. If you can still do it.
I did one last year.
I would be up for a punters league.
I did a punter league last year. You can still do it on ESPN. They
on ESPN. Okay.
They still have the option where you can go.
But only punters.
Yeah, only punters.
Not every. So, and then one year we did, because I just noticed it was there. There was also an option to draft coaches.
Ooh, I don't think
it was just. It was like
if they win or lose.
It was 5 points for a win, 5 points for a loss, 1 point for winning a challenge, -1 for losing a challenge.
Okay.
So one year we did punters and coaches. That might have been the last year, or maybe we just couldn't. I don't remember why we stopped adding the coaches, but I would be down for a punters league. I'd absolutely. Yeah. Maybe we do that and we open it up to fans of the show, fans of Patriots Daily, and maybe we see like people throw some money to charity. They can get in a punters league with us.
That would be fun. How big would your rosters be?
Well, I mean, it depends how many people you had. We had 4 of us, and we each had, I think, 6 punters.
We
something
did
like that. We didn't quite do the whole league. It was enough that like you're the last guy on your roster. You did have to like know who his backup was, or if that team was thinking about moving on or something like that.
We did ours last year. It was 4-man league, and we did 8 roster spots. So every punter was taken, and you had to be like on it if one of your guys got hurt. And like the Ryan Stonehouse, the Titans punter, got hurt late in the year, and then I was like the first waiver, and I picked up the backup, and then like I made the championship. I lost in the championship, but like that propelled me because I was on that. So we did like every punter was taken, and then you had to be ready. But
so maybe we do. Well,
depends on the people.
Right. So if we had me, you, Taylor, Mike, there's no way in hell we're going to get Evan to do this. Maybe Sophie, maybe Kevin. So that's like 4 to 6 right there. Maybe we do like 2 divisions. Maybe we do, the media division and then the fans division. We get like 5 or 6 fans. So if we had 12, it's 12 times 3. Is that 30? No.
36.
Okay. So that's too many.
You'd have to do.
You do 10 people. We do 10 people, and everybody gets 3 punters. And if there's bye weeks, you're just
there's 2 left over.
Yeah. All right. We'll figure this out. Well, I think it would be cool to be able to invite people into it.
Yeah, that would be fun.
We would have to limit it.
Yeah.
Unless we did like a kickers and punters league.
Yeah, we'll have to find the perfect balance of like teams and players on the roster and stuff like that. We also did like it was an. We get 8
people. Everybody gets 4 punters. Maybe that's the number.
Yeah. We also did like it was an absurd amount of points if they completed a pass or like ran.
Oh, I like that.
A ton. Like it was just like 100 points. Like you basically automatically win the week if they complete like 1 pass, as long as the other team doesn't like go absolutely off. So that was like a fun twist. I remember there was like a late. Or I had the Chiefs punter because like Andy Reid was just like aggressive. They had one of the most like highest fake rates. So even though they didn't punt a lot, like that was a risk I took. So that was a fun kind of wrinkle that we did. But.
So I remember I was in a fantasy league in college. This is the last time I played fantasy, and the kid who ran it, and I was with him. And this is why part of the reason I don't like fantasy. It's not reflective of NFL football. Like running backs have all this value, right? And on and on. So he had started this league when he was in high school, and then he got some of us into it. That kind of built off of that. So you've heard of PPR, right? Point per reception. I was in a PPC league, point per completion. And it was 2 quarterbacks, and there were all these, but it was also PPR. It was not point per carry, but running backs had some things too. But I remember there were significant bonuses if the quarterback, And I mean, the scoring, you'd regularly score into like the 150s, the 200s, like if you had a solid week. There'd be a couple people under 100 each week, but if your quarterback threw for 500 yards, you got 500 points.
Oh my
if
gosh.
your receiver, your running back rushed or caught for 300 yards, you got 300 points. And I don't remember who the quarterback was, but I lost a playoff game once because the quarterback threw for 497 yards. I mean, that's not why I lost, but like he played well, but like 3 more yards, I would have had that massive bonus. I would have been cooking, but that was when that thing was nuts. That was it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going out on top. I'll give you my other fun fantasy football story. I didn't want to play it as a kid because I didn't want to root for players that weren't on the Patriots. So my friends, this was probably, actually, I was 13 years old. My friends talked. They were like, you're going to do it. We want you in the league, blah, blah, blah. They set it up for me. It's like, fine. Under one condition. I only drafted Patriots. With the exception, somebody figured out what I was doing and took Steven Gostkowski. So I drafted Connor Barth, obviously. That was 2007. I won the league. I lost one game.
My fantasy team, that was my greatest fantasy team ever, 2007. I had Brady, Moss, Welker, and Gostkowski. It was just untouchable.
Yeah. But I also had, I went way down. Like I had Maroney. I had
you just did them all.
I had Jabbar Gaffney because like you had to fill out the roster. Only drafted Patriots.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll try. Maybe we'll talk. We'll try to set. It would be cool if we can do it for charity. Maybe we do something like everybody throws in X amount of dollars, and then winner gets half, the other half goes charity, something like that. But
we'll
maybe
figure something out.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. We can figure something out there. Punter League. So let's take a quick break. Keep throwing those questions in the chat while we hear from PrizePicks. I'm going to tell you all about PrizePicks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app and the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 or 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And if you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays to help hit your lineup, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. We have a great Stanley Cup match tonight that we will talk about later. You can hit all your over or more or less on PrizePicks. We have baseball, and just because the NBA Finals are over, the hoops action doesn't stop either on PrizePicks, as women's basketball is underway, and young stars like Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, who they seem to play each other like every 2 days, it feels like.
Yeah. What is up with that? I guess how many teams there in the league? There's not that many.
I think there's 12, so maybe that's it. It still seems a lot, though, but they are making names for themselves along the great WNBA players like Breanna Stewart, and you could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. So download PrizePicks today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, make sure everyone check out our good friends over at PrizePicks yet again. Someone asked during that, how early does Brian pick Behringer in the punter draft? I picked him first round last year, and it turned out to be like the greatest pick at all, because I think he was the second highest ranked player behind Thomas Morstead, who was like also a steal because everyone thought the Jets were going to be really good. But hopefully he's not Bryce Behringer, as much as we love watching him punt. Hopefully he's not punting as much this year. So we'll wait and see there. But off punters, sadly, do you think Cole Strange potentially could transition to center if we have 2 better guards, whether that's Michael Nwinu, Layden Robinson, City So? If there's these guys impress along the interior, and maybe in the post-David Andrews era, could you see Cole Strange moving inside there to the center position?
I mean, eventually, yes, I do think he profiles more as a center than a tackle. I've heard some people say he can play tackle, but you're not going to replace – you're not going to put him in the lineup for David Andrews. And especially Drake May's rookie year, you want continuity of any position center. So – if let's say David Andrews, well, he just signed the extension, so I don't think he's retiring. And then Cole Strange's contract will be up. So maybe if David Andrews decides at the end of this year he's going to walk away from all that money and he's done, next year maybe we have that conversation for Cole Strange to like save his roster spot, or maybe on another team he moves to center. But I don't see how that happens this year unless there's a couple of injuries.
Yeah. And then you're talking, I mean, if you're talking like 2 years down the line, like is Cole Strange even here still at that point? Right.
Right. That's what I'm saying. By the time David Andrews is gone, Cole Strange probably isn't here. So I just don't see how it happens.
So maybe it's like another team that's a project another team takes on there. But here, that might be tough to see unfolding, especially after the David Andrews extension. So who will finish the season with the most tackles? Usually like a Jelani Tavai or Juwan Bentley, probably the front runners there if you had to put some odds on it. But I don't know, any other dark horses there you have for tackle leader?
Maybe Duggar if they play him in the box more. That would be the one other spot I would look at. But it's I would think it's going to be Bentley.
Yeah. That's his role. So that's what Juwan Bentley does, and he's really good at it. So this is a good one. Other than Mayo and Alex Van Pelt, who is the most important person to be working with Drake Maye? So if it's not one of those two, it's going to be TC McCartney, Ben McAdoo, or, I mean, technically Evan Rothstein is like an assistant quarterback coach, but it's probably between TC McCartney and Ben McAdoo. Do you have a preference there? Which one is kind of in Maye's ear a little bit more?
I think it's TC McCartney just because I think it's set up. We've talked about this. If it all works out, it's set up for him to kind of be the next offensive coordinator. So I think them getting familiar with each other is important.
Yep. He missed the OTAs because he was on some like coaching retreat or something, and like Van Pelt was in the lead. But then once TC came back and they were running through some of those bag drills, like he was very vocal, involved. Like he seemed to be like quarterback coach, right? Like he was there. He was pretty hands-on. That kind of stood out to me. So he probably seems, outside of the head coach and the coordinator, it seems like that's kind of TC's job there.
Yeah.
So what else we got here?
Is there a chance Kendrick Bourne doesn't play a game this year? I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised.
Play a game, yeah, that would be very surprising.
Gerard Mayo at the end of the spring made it sound like he would be back for the start of the season.
Yeah.
So maybe not for the start of camp, but the start of the regular season.
And Bourne has, anytime he's spoken about it, you know, he's done like a bunch of YouTube videos, his own content, and he's kind of on that same timeline. I think he even says back for the start of training camp, which we'll see. But if he's thinking start of training camp, you'd assume he's thinking, you know, start of regular season too. So doesn't play a game this year. I mean, maybe he starts on the pup and that's, you know, 6 weeks, but a game, that would be very, very surprising, I would say.
Right.
What do you predict might be the surprise story of the season? That's an interesting one.
Well, if I can predict it, it's not a surprise, right?
Yeah. Are we talking about
like
Drake
Patriots
Maye?
or in general? Yeah, like
we talking about Drake Maye, like we're talking about CJ Stroud at this time next year? Would that be a surprise story?
I mean, I think it has to be, and that's nothing against Drake Maye. Just, you know, I said this on the Hub over the weekend. I guess it got a little bit of reaction. If your expectation, if your bar for Drake Maye is CJ Stroud, you're doing him and yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
You can't count on him having the best season ever by a rookie, especially when you look at what's around him. And he doesn't need to have CJ Stroud's season to be a success. There's been lots of quarterbacks who played as rookies, didn't play to CJ Stroud's level and still became great. So, yeah, I don't know about that. I was going to kind of go more like, I don't know. This is bold.
Well, it's a surprise.
Like, just new front office, all that. One of, and I go back and forth on who. One of Jalen Polk or Javon Baker ends up being like a dude. Maybe not to the point where we're not talking about a receiver next year. not like what was it? Not Jamar Chase, but maybe one of them ends up being like a T. Higgins type. Not DK Metcalf, but maybe one of them ends up being Tyler Lockett. Like a legitimate low end 1, high end 2, like guy. And if they get that, that's massive. That's massive because now you go out. I mean, depending on who it is, would depend on which receiver you go get next year. But let's say it's Polk because he's the better play. He's the higher pick, right? So for the sake of argument, now you go out next year, you get your X, and now maybe T. Higgins makes more sense. Not more sense, but like you don't need DK Metcalf, right? But you go out, you get that guy. Now your offense, you're golden. Because Hunter Henry, assuming he doesn't take too much of a step back, he's 29. Hunter Henry's like a solid starting tight end. You'll have a true number 1. You'll have a high end number 2. You got a legitimate slot threat in Pop. You got your running back locked up. All of that set, right. You got your quarterback, assuming Drake Maye. Well, you have it all set around the quarterback, I should say. We'll see what Drake Maye does. But, all that set, damn, there's no reason not to take a tackle. Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks. I tweeted out the list earlier of the top left tackles in EA Sports College Football 25. Learn the names, burn them into your brain. Now you're cooking with gas. One of the only thing, I don't want to say it's the biggest development because Drake Maye being like a stud would obviously be the biggest development. Short of that, the biggest development is one of Polk or Baker. Let's call it like 50, 60 catches, 800 yards, high single-digit touchdowns. And like actually plays to that level and isn't just stat padding.
Yeah.
That would be massive.
Huge.
That would be so big.
Yeah. Because it's the 3 needs, like we talked about all offseason: quarterback, receiver, offensive tackle. It's not going to be offensive tackle unless all of a sudden Caden Wallace is back at left tackle and like has that surprise season that we just talked about, right? It's going to be quarterback or wide receiver. So you hope it's Maye, and then if you get one of those receivers to kind of go along with him, then that would be huge and make next offseason that much easier for you as you continue to kind of build this thing up. So those would be 2 really good surprise. I don't want to say surprises, but those would be 2 really good kind of stories to unfold this year. If you can check off quarterback, if you're confident in Drake Maye, and one of those receivers you're kind of confident in going into next offseason to keep building this thing. So,
yeah.
Is Evan not excited about special teams? Says, how can you get – I don't know if that meant supposed to be you and Brian, or if we're getting Bill Belichick down here to teach Evan about how exciting special teams can be.
I've been trying for years.
Well, I know he's in the past. Is he at least excited about the new kickoff rule at all? Because now it's more of like a scheme play kind of.
He says he's not, and then we start talking about it, and he gets all jazzed up. So, okay. Yeah.
I'm just the day week 1 after week 1, or maybe in the preseason, I need to see on his Twitter like at all 22 of the first kickoff return or something. Right. And then that's how you know that he'll be all in. So, that'll be fun to watch. Alex wants to say he feels like our defensive line depth is really bad, and honestly, defense on the whole. Are you at all worried that if the top players go down, the defense will be significantly worse? Well, if you lose your top players like last year, you're always going to be worse. Any team is going to be worse. Defensive line, though, I don't think the depth is that bad. I mean, they have some, Jeremiah Farms showed some intriguing level play. He only played like 85, 90 snaps last year, but he had some intriguing film. You get Daniel Quale back, who's proven to be like a good sub rusher. Maybe if you're talking like pass rush depth, because after Judon and Uche, like what do you have along the edge there? But I mean, yeah, if your top players get hurt for any team, you're going to be worse. But as for defensive line depth, I don't think they're in that bad. Now maybe we'll see what happens with Godshaw and Judon, but where they stand now, I don't think the defensive line depth is that bad.
Yeah, I don't, not quite. Like you said, if you lose the top players, they're going to get worse. They could use maybe another edge rusher. That's the one depth spot I wonder about, especially with Judon standing. Now, I look at a guy like O'Shea Jimenez, and maybe he, makes a push or something like that. But, I mean, they're in good shape defensively. You can always have more depth, but you look at, a tackle, they don't really have a true backup nose tackle, but the way they're going to play, I don't know that matters. Behind Barmore, they got a couple, good pass rushing defensive tackles, Aquale, guys like that. They've got, a ton of bodies on the edge. Linebackers probably where they're thinnest. We'll see how healthy Raekwon McMillan is, obviously, Sione Takitaki. But Juwan Bentley's a good player. Tavai's been a solid player for them. Obviously, Uche Judon on that weak side pass rush. And then we've talked about the depth of corner. It's excellent. They got a ton of talent. So, yeah, if they start losing top players, they'll be worse. We saw that last year. They're not going to have all pros up and down the two deep. Like, it's just not realistic, especially at this point for where they are. They're not going to be the 2000 Ravens. They're not going to be the 02 Bucks. Sorry, but they should be a top 8 unit in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel as a whole, like the depth is pretty good there from top down. Like safeties, obviously a good room. And now you had like a guy like Jalen Hawkins who seemed to be involved and pretty impressive maybe in the spring. Corner, we've talked about a lot, how many young guys you have there, and maybe they still have an external addition and Stephon Gilmore. Linebackers, Tavai, Bentley, Taki, we'll see. Where does Mapu factor in? And then the D-line. Like, I think they're pretty good depth there wise, but, if you lose guys, and that's going to hurt. So
Right.
I think they're pretty good depth-wise on the defensive side of the ball. But any UDFAs you think have a chance to make the 53-man roster? Watching those running backs we talked about earlier, that will be interesting. Maybe they just say we don't need an external addition at running back because Deshaun Fenwick or Terrell Jennings kind of takes the role when the pads come on. But any of them or any of those other UDFAs on your kind of radar to maybe sneak a 53-man roster spot?
Some of last year's maybe. This year, yeah, the running backs, if anybody, but it's not a super deep group of UDFAs. They're not necessarily positions outside of running back where there's spots to be won. So I'm gonna stick with the running backs again.
Yeah, not Zuri Henry.
No, well, he's got to show up first.
Yeah, that's very true. I'd also say it's tough. Like Mikey Victor had some good moments in the spring, but that room is just so loaded that it's going to be really tough to crack as a UDFA, that cornerback room. So he's got like an uphill battle, but he had some good moments in the spring. So we'll see on the 53. The 53-man streak ended, right? Last year, 2 years ago?
I want to say last year. I think last year.
Last year? Okay, so maybe they'll start a new streak this year, but we'll see. Probably not. Yeah. Doesn't look. Those running backs are probably the best bet there. So,
yeah, it's also so different now. Like because it sort of broke with JJ Taylor where he didn't make the initial roster,
and they
but he made the week 1 roster because it's different with the practice squad signing and all that. Actually, I will throw on. To be fair, the one other guy I'd watch now, I think he's probably got somebody in front of him that's a similar player, but. Jacob Warren, the tight end, I think they're going to end up with a blocking tight end, whether that's on the roster week 1, whether that's a guy that's on the practice squad and gets elevated early and then is added to the roster. I'm working on something right now that's, the opposite of surprise cuts, which players might have a chance to make the team. I'm looking at Mitchell Wilcox, who's a veteran tight end, who's more of a blocker. But if something happens with Wilcox, maybe Warren gets a shot.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And that kind of leads into the next one here. Haven't heard much of Austin Hooper during minicamp in OTAs, that tight end room. Like it was kind of a quiet spring, I'd say, from Austin Hooper. Do you think I'd still put him, if we were doing a 53 roster projection here, I would still put him on. I think it's probably going to be Henry is locked in and then Hooper and Jaheim Bell. But I don't know. Could you see one of those, Mitchell Wilcox, Michael Petway, Jacob Warren? Could you see maybe one of them making a push for and kind of, kicking Austin Hooper out there?
Yeah, I don't think Hooper's a roster lock. I mean, he's close. But he'd have to come back to them.
That KJ Osborne group?
Yeah. But he'd have to come back to them. I don't think he's like jumping up to Yeah, I don't think guys are just going to, play as well as him. He's going to have to come down a bit as well because he's played for Alex Van Pelt before. It's Alex Van Pelt's guy. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see, anything else we got here in the chat? Looking at the 2025 quarterback draft class, was taking Drake Maye at 3 the right pick when it comes to,
Yes.
This year's quarterback class is not. Drake Maye would be like locked into the number 1 pick right now, and he probably wouldn't even have to play this year if he was in this year's draft. So he's far and away, unless someone has like a Joe Burrow type season, which I don't see in this class. Like Drake Maye would be locked in.
And I'll say this too, like and I know nobody's gonna want to hear this, and it's kind of a blah take, but I'm giving it anyway. You can only go with the information you have at the time, right? If you have, if somebody emerges, right? If DJ Uyunglele has this amazing season, so what? They should have waited on Drake Maye because they should have known DJ Uyunglele was going to transfer and then have this like out. How many times do we do this? You don't wait to take a quarterback. You don't. If you have a chance to take a guy, you take a guy. Waiting on a quarterback is such a dangerous game. I'm glad they didn't do it.
Yep. I agree with you. A few more here. Which coach will be most impactful this season?
Which coach? I mean, I besides Mayo, like that's kind of a weird question, right?
I always just like to give Mike Pellegrino his flowers because he does an awesome job and he's underrated. And it's such a young cornerback room still. Like the work he's done the past few years finding these guys has been awesome. So I like.
Yeah, but we're talking about most impactful this year. It's got to be Van Pelt, right? Drake May's development.
Yeah, that's the most important one. So how he works with Drake Maye. So
here's one. We're talking about Hard Knocks earlier. Will the Patriots appear in 2025? So they'd be eligible, assuming they don't make. You can't do it after the playoffs, right? So assuming they don't make the playoffs, they would be eligible. I gotta imagine the league wants them on there. Has been wanting them on there. So yeah, I could definitely see it.
Yeah, watching all the Hard Knocks clips, I got that feeling last night. Like I don't know if they might push back and try not to do it. Like teams have done that in the past, but I don't think they have the choice, right? Like they can
you can decline it, but at a certain point, if the league says we're putting you on Hard Knocks, you're going to end up on Hard Knocks.
You're going to have Hard Knocks. So yeah, I could honestly see it happening next year, especially if Drake Maye has like a good year, if he plays a good amount and has a good year, like I could 100% see that happening.
Although if he has too good of a year, they'll be in the playoffs, and they can't be.
That's very true. That's very true. So we'll wait and see there. So let's take one last very quick break here. We'll hear from our friends over at GameTime, and then we will wrap up with a few more other notes and things to talk about. It's baseball season. That is all we have left until training camp starts. We have the Red Sox, and GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier because prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying all your MLB tickets. They have flash deals to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event, and zone deals to save if you're looking to sit in a specific section. And GameTime has last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute for all your sports. If you want to go around Fenway, there's plenty of bars, places to eat, Cask and Flagon, Bleacher Bar, Lansdowne, anywhere you want to go get a drink, get some food, check GameTime right before first pitch, and maybe get a great last-minute deal on some Red Sox tickets. And you can also get your comedy, theater, or concert tickets. We have a great lineup at Gillette, even some Fenway concerts coming this summer, so you can get your GameTime concert tickets as well. But take the guesswork out of buying all your MLB tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Make sure everyone
Guaranteed. Good job.
guaranteed. Make sure everyone checks out Game Time for all your tickets. We'll be getting NFL tickets. We'll be looking for NFL tickets sooner rather than later. So make sure you use Game Time. While that was on, I just saw a quote from Sam Kennedy on Red Sox pregame. He said, "Resources won't be a problem when asked about taking on a high salary player at the trade deadline." So
yeah, it can't be a problem if you don't have them.
Hopefully that doesn't age as well as Full Throttle does in the future.
Right? Yeah. Why am I supposed to believe anything?
Yeah.
That he says.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Any Boston sports stuff we can do? I want to ask you about all the NCAA football stuff that's coming out, but quickly first, any Boston sports stuff? I mean, Derek White on the Olympic team. Is Jaylen Brown getting snubbed by Nike, or what's going on there?
Well, now, so I didn't know Nike chooses the team. Like, I didn't get all of that.
I guess,
but I did see that Kevin Durant's now dealing with an injury.
Yeah.
So, maybe they call Jaylen. Other than that, just Red Sox, FSG's by another soccer team. Great, excellent, exactly what you want to see before the trade deadline. Kind of more of the same. It'd be great. It'd be great if they invest in this team. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Boston sports. So NCAA, we got our gameplay. We got like 20 minutes of gameplay the other day with Donovan Edwards playing. We got our player overalls today. Did anything stand out for you? You talked briefly about the offensive tackles, which is a position that all Patriots fans should know. The left tackle, not right tackle next year in college football. So did any of those overalls stand out for you? Because what are we, a week, 5 days away from
less than that, early access Monday at 4:00.
NCAA game plan. Yeah, so we'll have an early Monday show, so we can get our early access later in the day. But anything from the NCAA game the last few days that you didn't like or you did like, overalls, anything there?
Well, first I'll just say we'll also be early because I'll be on Felgren Mass Monday to Thursday next week, 2 to 6. So if people want to tune into that. They listed Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, not a corner.
That was weird.
I've said this. I think he'll play both ways again this year in college. He is a corner in the NFL. He's not going to be a two-way player in the NFL. Now, I wonder if they wanted the hype of, him and Shedeur both top ranked at their positions together. And I don't think Travis Hunter would have been the top ranked corner. Will Johnson's clearly better.
He shouldn't have been the top ranked receiver, though.
Well, that too. But I think maybe they thought it was easier to fudge making him the top receiver. And it's like, we just want to get him in Shedeur, get people excited about playing as Colorado. But no, the top ranked receiver, let me pull up the ratings real quick here to remember exactly what they had. I thought they more or less got it right. I wish they gave us more, right? They only did the top 100 players total. So, no kickers, no punters, no fullbacks.
The kickers are going to be weird in college this year. I feel like all the seasoned guys are gone, like Will Reichard, Josh Carty. We're going to have kind of a new wave of kickers.
Yeah, it's not. There's one guy. There's that guy, Jonah, I think it's Dalmas from Boise State, who kicked a 60-yard field goal over a pool earlier today, if you saw that. But besides him, yeah, not a great year for kickers. So as I stall here, pull it up at wide receiver. And if you want to check it out on the EA website, you can see like they have for Madden, the ratings database. And we'll do this when the Madden ratings come out. So yeah, Travis Hunter is a 95, Luther Burden and Tet McMillan is 94, then Emeka Egbuka is a 93, Tez Johnson, Torrey Horton at 91. I think Burden and McMillan as the top two true receivers makes a lot of sense. And they're very different kinds of players. You're talking about, just to use profiles, that the not even Tyreek Hill type, but more I'll use that like Tyreek Hill type versus Mike Evans type of receiver. But I think they got that right. Emeka Egbuka, assuming he's finally healthy, is in that next tier. And then I would have separated Torrey Horton a little bit, but Tez Johnson's a good player. I think they got that mostly right. The thing is, so they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 receivers in their top 100. There's not going to be 9 receivers who are first round picks. So if, the Patriots do end up investing in another receiver high, yeah, there's some names to get to know. Tez Johnson, Torrey Horton, Evan Stewart, Xavier Restrepo from Miami. Those are definitely guys to know.
Yeah. I mean, the difference with McMillan and Burden, you can just kind of see it on the stats that there are like 6 categories of stats, but like McMillan has the higher like jumping strength, and then Burden has the speed and acceleration. So those are their kind of different styles where, back to our conversation earlier, depending which of Polk or Baker, if one of those guys has a, standout year, that might affect if you're looking at a bigger receiver, McMillan, or maybe Burden, who's maybe more of that inside guy. But
yeah, Burden, I just wonder if Pop comes into the equation there. Because if you're putting both of them on the field at the same time, you're very fast, but you do not have a lot of size. And you need you need receivers that can block in this scheme. So I think that, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but that if you're going to talk about Luther Burden, you have to talk about Pop Douglas too.
Yep. And then only five left tackles, pure left tackles in their top 100 rankings. They got it right with Campbell and Kelvin Banks as the top 2. But any like tackle takeaways from their rankings?
Just that, like, I think that's a pretty accurate representation of, at least going into the season, what we're looking at with this draft class. Those are the guys. Like, there's other tackles who are solid. I really like Wyatt Millam from West Virginia, but like that would be if for some reason they fall out of the top 10, or, maybe even they're picking, they want to pick somebody high and then trade back up into the first. It's Will Campbell. It's Kelvin Banks. Those are the names to know. And of the 5, there really should be a future Patriot on that list. I think something drastic has happened if there's not a future Patriot on that list of 5 there.
Yep. Hopefully. But yeah, I don't know. It's not called NCAA. It's called College Football.
EA Sports College Football 25. I've just been calling it CFB 25. I know I need to get off. Did you see NCAA. They kind of got after Lamar for calling it NCAA the other day?
They're like, oh, you're not getting your copy or something because he called it NCAA.
Yeah. They're like, we'll still give it to you, but so I've been calling it CFB 25 or just EA.
Oh, and I mean the biggest
or
news,
just the game.
Arch Manning's in the game.
Yeah, we bullied him. We bullied him into it, and then they gave him $60,000. But we bullied him into it.
In a commercial.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. He got dragged so much for that. He even made light of that report that he wants to focus what's on the field. And now Texas has a backup quarterback that, if you play Dynasty, will be in the transfer portal right away. So
I was going to say, is he your first transfer target, transfer portal target? I don't
want Arch Manning.
No,
what do I want Arch Manning for? No,
yeah, okay.
I'm going quarterback. I'm not doing transfer portal. I'll get other positions. Like my strategy is, there's certain positions you just recruit, like you put a ton of focus on. And I mean, this is how I did it on 14. We'll see if it changes. I recruited a quarterback at least every other year. I tried to get a quarterback every year, but if not every other year, right? What's up?
Packer way,
right? At least every other year, if not every year. And then, well, there wasn't the transfer portal in the past, but to me, the transfer portal is just going to be about like, all right, I got my recruiting done. What glaring holes do I have left? I'm not going to go dabble. I'm not going to not use the transfer portal. Like, I'm definitely going to use it.
It's like
but it might just be right. And we'll see, like, I'm sure there'll be trends where like certain positions tend to be stronger. Like, I feel if it's modeled after real life, right? You can always get good receivers in the transfer portal. So maybe I won't recruit receiver as heavily, just knowing like, I'm a receiver short on my depth chart. All right, we'll go to the transfer portal and get somebody. Whereas like quarterback, I want to have that guy. I want to develop that guy. If the quarterback was worth it, damn, he wouldn't be transferring, at least later on in his career. So that's how I'm going to approach it personally.
Yeah.
We'll do maybe next week. Next week we're getting ready for camp, but at some point maybe we'll do a show talking about it.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have some content on it coming forward. But hopefully they have the new BC stadium. You see all the renovations BC's doing. Hopefully they.
I saw that guy snuck onto the field.
I saw that video. That guy's good. He gets in all the stadiums. But they BC Twitter was like posting a bunch of the renovations they're doing. Apparently Bill O'Brien wants like a 50,000 person stadium to help attract recruits.
He's got to fill that thing up.
Yeah, and they're remodeling all like the boxes and stuff like that right now. It looks
Yeah, I
like
saw that.
I saw some pictures. It looks like they have kind of like the Patriots do with like those field lounges. One of those is going in too.
Yeah.
So could be a big kind of replacement over there at BC. It should be fun. But yeah,
Well,
he's got to fill it up. If he's got 50,000 people, he's got to put some butts in seats there.
I don't know. It took him a year to get the lighthouse in Madden, right? The lighthouse wasn't in Madden last year. So in that's only 32 stadiums. Now you're talking about 134 where Boston College isn't exactly going to be a priority.
Well,
you might have to wait a year or two on that.
They're in all the like the graphics, like the playoff graphics. They have BC, and then the trailer. They were one of the first teams.
So I think there's got to be BC people on the development team.
Yeah,
and I think they're in the trailer because, like, say what you will about BC, they do have some of the best uniforms in college football.
100%.
And so you want to show those off in the trailer.
Will the red bandana, would those be in the game as like an alternate?
They said most teams submitted alternates. I would think so. I hope so.
That would be cool.
I would think, because they don't have that many alternate. That's like their only one, right? They don't do the throwbacks anymore. They just made what were the throwbacks, the regular uniform. They got rid of those terrible ones with the italic jersey numbers. So I mean, I have no inside information, but I would think so. I would hope so.
We'll have to get Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin would know. That's actually a great point. Kevin would know.
We'll have to ask him about that. But
yeah.
Yeah, BC could be fun this year. College football 25 definitely will be fun this year. And I believe that will do it for us today. One other note, C. McCatton listened to us in the hospital bed after hip replacement surgery. Hope you have a speedy recovery. Shout out to you for listening. Thanks for listening. Hope everything goes well. And that will do it. That is our off season. We will be back next week. Again, we're going to do Monday, Wednesday. We're going to do it a little earlier in the morning because Barth will be on with Felger in the afternoon. So make sure you tune into that right here on Patriots Press Pass. Turn your notifications on so you know when we go live. You can also follow Patriots CLNS on Twitter. We will keep you updated. You can also follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth and head over to 985thesportshub.com. He'll have some training camp preview coverage coming out over there. We will have some as well on patspulpit.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines. Thanks everyone for your questions and for tuning in with us tonight, and we will see you guys next week for our training camp preview.